Hey guys, what is going on? Jake Goodman here with you on this Christmas Eve. Speaking of Christmas Eve, I want to wish every single one of you guys out there a very happy holidays, whether it's Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, or just any other holiday. Happy holidays, guys, and I hope you guys have a fantastic time, especially throughout the rest of December as we go into the new year. Now, actually, it is probably going to be Christmas by the time that this video is uploaded onto YouTube, but I do want to give you guys a quick update real quick. I got myself a brand new video editing software, so from now on, I should be able to upload some more of the Real Talk Radio interviews, funny moments, and you guys might notice some of the random stuff that I put on here, such as basketball and that last video that I did, which probably wasn't very something that you guys wanted on my channel. That was expected, put it that way. That's what I meant to say, expected. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm going to be posting a lot of my class projects on there too. So with this brand new video editing software, it just makes everything so much easier for me when it comes to that sort of stuff. And I'm excited to get to show more interviews with you guys from now. Speaking of interviews, you guys are going to be listening to an interview that we did way back in August with Kyle Hebert, who is a well-known anime voice actor. He's done the voice of adult Gohan from the Dragon Ball series. He's done King Cobra from One Piece. He's done some voices on Case Closed, as well as many other animes like this. His profile is huge. You guys will have to go check it out. In fact, down below, there's going to be a link to his Twitter and his website for you guys to go check out. So without further ado, here is the Kyle Hebert interview that we did for Real Talk Radio back in August. Hope you guys enjoy. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's Real Talk interview, where we let you give us the real talk. Tonight, we are interviewing a very special voice actor who is well known throughout the world of anime and video games. We are talking to Kyle Hebert, whom you might know as the voice of adult Gohan from the Dragon Ball series and Ryu from the Street Fighter video game series. Kyle has also appeared in many other animes such as Naruto, Case Closed, One Piece, and recently, One Punch Man. We are very happy to have you on the show tonight, Kyle, and we thank you for taking the time out of your day to let us interview you. Now, before we get into the interview, I want to ask, how's your week going, Kyle?
It's going good. I've been in and out of the booth a few times, and in the world of freelance, you know, every time you have a chance to work, it's always a good thing, because that means, hey, maybe I can pay the bills this month after all.
Gotta make that money somehow, man. Gotta make that money somehow.
Oh, yeah, and it's not a lot. Without being a celebrity or anything like that, it's like it's a long battle uphill, but I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I'm following my dream and having so much fun getting to play these characters through the years.
That's really awesome to hear, man. That is really awesome to hear.
Awesome sauce.
Okay, so I guess the first question we have for you are, what are some things happening with you in voice acting right now, Kyle?
Well, here's the scary thing. They always make you sign non-disclosure agreements, so I can't really talk about projects until they're released. But we were given the go-ahead to announce, of course, One Punch Man. I don't have any big roles on it, but, you know, I kind of slip in there. I've been on Hunter recently. Basically, kind of like it's Kyle cameos left and right on Toonami. It really is. Eventually, you know, there's more Japanese RPG titles coming that I'm a part of. Recently it was announced that I'm Lindo, once again, in God Eater Burst. We got a God Eater sequel coming out in the anime that we're hunkering down and recording on, and then the new game drops in a few weeks. Pretty excited about that. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. That's on the docket, and of course everyone's dying to know, are we going to do Dragon Ball Super? And we're all just waiting. You know, we're kind of at the hands of the mercy of the Japanese on this one. So hey, Toei, you got a fan base awaiting.
There you go. Yeah. You know, I've been watching the Dragon Ball Super subs, and I can't wait if you guys get to dub it. That's my thing.
Yeah, it'll be a wonderful day, and I say when it happens. I think it's a matter of time. How could they not license that?
Right?
But, you know,
Yes.
Again, it's up to the Japanese to decide how their shows get distributed through the world, and hopefully they make the right decision. And I know the whole cast is just dying to get back in the booth and play these characters again for a new generation.
And I'm honestly really looking forward to Xenoverse 2 whenever that game comes out. Now, you have a big voice acting career going on right now, but my question to you is, if you could go back in time and change one thing about your career, be it large or small, what would it be and why?
Ooh, man, I think I could be a little more forthcoming and proactive in the terms of networking and getting out there and meeting industry people and getting my demo in the hands and of people who have the power to cast and stuff. I've been very, very blessed in that, my demo has been walked into numerous studios and casting houses through the years. A dangerous thing for actors to do of any type, whether it's on camera or not, is become complacent and be like, oh, I don't have to try anymore. That's never true. You get an agent, you still have to hustle. I would say that even having an agent for the past, decade or so that I've been in Los Angeles, I can't rest on those laurels. My agent's job is not to get me work, but to get me auditions. So I'm constantly reading for the likes of Disney, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, all these big projects. Meanwhile, I continue to be pretty firmly entrenched in the world of games and anime. And, hey, that's fantastic. When I grew up, when I was a little kid, I wanted to say, I want to voice cartoons. And then I'm so glad that I've gotten to voice all these other types of projects, even on hold messages, commercials, the whole world of everything. It's just made me feel so very blessed because, this world's full of people that never realize their dreams, that never get to have an opportunity to do that. So, again, super grateful that I can get to work in this industry, get to be a part of the pop culture fandom on the industry side, because I am a fan of this stuff too. But man, yeah, if I could go back, man, I wish I'd moved to LA sooner, but I also treasure my radio career at Radio Disney. I was a DJ there and had a great time meeting industry veterans that came there and helped teach some voice acting skills to the various staff, like Bob Bergen, the voice of Porky Pig, or Pat Fraley, one of my mentors, he voiced Krang on the original Ninja Turtles cartoon. Many other things since then. He's still teaching, and Bob is as well. But they both really kind of lit a fire under my ass and said, "You're talented, Kyle. You need to go to the West Coast." But I moved when I felt the calling was right, and it's hard to say if I would change very much about it, other than maybe things would happen sooner in my career had I gone out there and been a little more gung-ho about it a little more. But I don't really look back with regrets because, again, I've gotten to be a part of these huge franchises, gotten to travel the world because of my connection to them, met the most awesome fans in the world because they're fans of that stuff. And, no real regrets.
Man, this makes for a good segue for this next question, Kyle. So for most of your recordings and films, and especially video games, were you paid to travel to their studios and record with the cast? Or did you record at a studio near you and send them like your recordings?
Well, it depends on the project. I mean, nowadays, because I live in Los Angeles, stuff for Funimation, depending on the budget, can hire a local studio, and I can go in and they'll be on Skype or whatever. We'll have a digital phone patch and do it that way. Other stuff that requires more hours, I'll fly out, but no, they don't really pay for that normally. There's been a couple of Dragon Ball Z games where it was in the budget to fly me to Dallas. Other ones not so much, but they just stuck me in a studio in LA, and that was fine. Other times, Chris Sabat's flown out here himself to direct. It just depends on the thing. Most of my auditions are done from home on my computer setup, and that's super convenient. I even have a portable USB mic I can plug directly into my iPhone or iPad, sit in the car and record auditions. It sounds pretty damn good.
Man, that is crazy to hear that we had a technology like that nowadays. That is honestly insane.
Yeah, not that I'm being paid to endorse it, but I say Apogee makes a great little gizmo called Mic, M-I-C, and it comes with a USB cord and a lightning cable, so it can plug directly into your iDevice, and you can sit there. It'll access your contacts directly. You can edit just like on Audacity or whatever, and send it out as a WAV file or MP3, whatever you want to do. Or you can upload it to the cloud and send a link to whoever you're trying to email. I mean, so many options.
You know, now that you mentioned this product right here, I'm seriously thinking about after the interview going to Amazon and just looking this up. And this also makes for a great segue into my next question, because over the past years, technology has just changed a lot, and especially in radio and voice acting. And I just kind of want to ask you, what was it like when you started doing voice acting?
Well, the internet was just kind of starting to take root. You know, VHS was still a thing. DVD didn't, you know, DVD was still kind of trying to take over VHS in those late 90s, early 2000s days. And I was an early adopter to that technology. Piracy was a rampant thing, but not until the internet did you see a growth in that thing with torrents and all that sort of thing. Some of it by fans who just felt entitled, and they're like, hey, I'm going to do this no matter what. Not caring about the consequences of, you know, low sales affecting, you know, future projects or even studio closures. And then other fans just being like, I can't wait. I don't want to wait for years for shows to get licensed. I have to have it now. And then nowadays you have studios like Funimation and Viz working with the Japanese partners for worldwide distribution, getting some shows even out, you know, the same day they are in Japanese, out in English. Funimation. I'm part of a dub for Danganronpa 3. I voiced Kazuichi Soda. He's a mechanic in that. That was a PlayStation Vita game. Now it's an anime. And that series is pretty much coming out. We record it, and then a matter of weeks later, it's on the air in Japan and in English. And I'm sure we're going to see more and more of that as industry moves forward and people embrace the internet, and as people, you know, kind of generate their own content through YouTube and their other outlets.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, now we live into a day and age to where, like, people can basically, like, just do this stuff at home, and it's honestly crazy to just think where we're going to be at in, say, like, the next 20 years or so.
It's like this big swap meet for people to put their demos, basically, to be discovered, you know. Yeah, we could all sit here and just go, oh, you know, when you hear Justin Bieber's name, but dude put his video on YouTube and he got discovered. Other people have put their effects reels on and get hired by Hollywood, and the next thing you know, they start working on Pacific Rim. Anything could happen. Anyone could be watching, or anyone could be listening to this podcast, and it's like, hey, I'm a big fan of that, and I work in this studio, and I think you guys would be great for this project. Like, what? You know, that sort of thing wouldn't have happened, certainly, you know, in the early days of anime, before the word anime even existed, back when it was VHS being traded on third or fourth generation tapes in raw Japanese, and the only fans were at comic conventions in the back room, you know, maybe a couple people watching. And then now, boy, conventions, pop culture, and anime cons exploding with you know, crazy. Most of the fans are actually in high school. You know, they're reaching a young demographic, or the Comic-Con culture. The kids who grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s now have families of their own, and they got more disposable income. So they're sitting here, you know, going to these shows and meeting the people that made their childhood. It's so much fun, and to be a part of that again, you can't really put it into words.
Yeah, and it's honestly crazy to see how much the anime community has grown, because, I mean, like, nowadays you hear a lot of people, and I know this is basically, like, everywhere on the internet, but you're seeing people comparing Goku to freaking Superman, and you see just basically, like, the popularity nowadays, it's just grown so much since, you know, like you said, 20 years ago, and it's really crazy, man.
Yeah, anime has gone through kind of waves of popularity. You know, different companies went under, others restructured, like ADV became, you know, Sentai nowadays, and they're blossoming. They're doing, you know, dubs to be recorded in LA and Vancouver, you know, Pokemon in New York. I mean, it's global, it's bi-coastal, it's you know, obviously the demand, you almost can't keep up with it. The dangerous part of that is, from a creative standpoint, then there's a glut. You know, for every great show, there's probably 10 or more ones that the quality's not so much there. Then other shows aren't doing quite as well. And so they have shorter runs. Nowadays you see the trends where shows are maybe 12 episodes or 26, and instead of these long tentpole shows like One Piece and Bleach just ended, and Naruto's basically on its end. But I mean, after how many episodes?
Yeah. So we're going to take a step back from Jake's question. So I want to ask you, what inspires you to voice act, Kyle?
Deep love of cartoons and animation, which most kids have to begin with, but it really blew me away when my dad told me we'd sit there on Saturday morning watching Looney Tunes, and he told me that one guy voiced all these characters. And I said, no way. That's a job? People do that? It's like, yeah. It's like, wow, that's so cool. I want to do that one day. So I'd sit there, and this was in the 70s. I'm growing up with a cassette recorder, sitting here doing, impressions and silly voices and mock commercials, and I'm playing DJ with my turntable, and I'm playing my pretend radio station with Kiss records and all this crazy stuff. But then again, I'm also painfully shy. So I didn't take advantage, like other actors will tell you, yes, you got to get a good foundation in acting on stage or on camera. I never did that. I was too shy, and I always struggled with memorizing dialogue. So when I was by myself, I figure, hey, I want to entertain people, but I want to entertain them where they can't see me. And voice acting and radio seemed like the perfect fit for that. And once I got into radio, got a broadcasting degree, then they kind of segued one into another. When I was working at Radio Disney back in the summer of 2000, heard about auditions at Funimation for DBZ and say, hey, that's a show I'm a huge fan of. They have auditions? Oh, my God, I'm going to go audition and go try out. And I got lucky, and 2 weeks later, I was doing bit part voices on the end of the Cell Saga, the Bardock special, and then came, teenage Gohan in high school with Great Saiyaman and all that. And then soon after that, I took over the narrator. Soon after that, I took over Ox King. We finished DBZ. We go start doing Dragon Ball, and then we do Yu Yu Hakusho, Blue Gender. Everything spirals off of that. So it's pretty wild that a love of something in the pop culture sense planted that seed at such an early age. Not a lot of people know what they want to do. Even when they get in their 20s, they graduate college even. They're like, I don't know what I want to do. Some people are in their mid-50s, and they still don't know what they want to do. I was lucky enough, I guess, to have that omen early on, and I wouldn't change a thing. If I wasn't voice acting nowadays, I'd be trying to become a voice actor because it's so much fun.
And to follow up his question, how has voice acting impacted your life?
Well, obviously, it's afforded me the ability to travel. It's afforded me, after getting established enough, I could get enough work under my belt that I could make a living at it. Again, I'm not, driving a Ferrari and living in a mansion in the Hollywood Hills by any means. I live in an apartment. I got rent to pay. I got bills. I got all that sort of real stuff. And, to be able to pay your bills doing something that you love, that you're passionate about, that is the end goal. I tell people, don't get into a job just because it makes a lot of money. What if you're making, 6 figures a year, but you're miserable? You're stressed out. Yeah, you can afford nice things, but is money truly everything? Money's really important. Don't get me wrong. You gotta pay the bills. You gotta take care of your family, your friend, your significant other, or whatnot. But anime, for example, pays so little. It could pay as little as maybe, I've heard it pays as low as $25 an hour, up to maybe $100 or maybe a little bit more than that, which sounds like a lot of money. But if you're only recording an hour or two a month, you obviously can do the math and see that, I can't make a living doing this. But and there's been rough times. There's been dry months. There's been lucrative months where I've gotten to work on things that even had residuals, like Wreck-It Ralph, getting work for Disney, because I was Ryu in Street Fighter. They had the cameos with the game characters in that, and that led to that. And then there's other times where it's like, I just voice some anime, but oh man, that doesn't really make a dent in rent, unfortunately. But man, I get to do this. I get to have something that I'm a fan of, and then go out there in the world and hear people's feedback directly, or on social media. I'm a social media whore. I love Facebook and Twitter. I love being able to interact with people. Love podcasts too. I love getting that live, instant feedback from people around the world. It's just it's addictive.
Yeah, and going from what you're saying, from what you've been saying, like for me and Jake, like in our age group, I mean, like that is good advice because me and Jake
Mhm.
are obviously in the process of going after college degrees, and like we ask ourselves, like, is this really what like is what we're going after going to make us happy, and all that stuff? Like I mean, Jake, I mean, you're going after a communications degree, right, Jake?
Yep, that's right. Communications and radio, which again, I'm very thankful that you're giving us all this information, Kyle, because
Sure.
hearing all this it really means a lot to me, man. I honestly really appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely. And speaking of communications, radio, like everything else, has been transformed. Kind of ripped inside out, and it has to kind of rise from the ashes and become a phoenix again in the new age. This is what podcast has been birthed from. The ability to do talk shows like this about very specific topics that you're not going to hear in normal terrestrial radio or even satellite radio to a degree. It's exciting to give the power of radio to anyone with a mic and an internet connection, and suddenly the world is their audience with just a little bit of minimal setup, getting that feed out there, or an iTunes link, and everything's out there for the world to see. And if the right person promotes it, then suddenly your audience booms and all that. But yeah, it's totally different where networks have been absorbed. The ma and pa stations don't really exist anymore. And a lot of stations are like voice tracked, where DJs are paid like maybe $10 an hour. Maybe they record them from home, and then everything is just kind of a digital jukebox. It's a little bit scary for folks who want to be a disc jockey nowadays. Unless you're just a big shock jock. If you're the Ryan Seacrest of the world, or you're Howard Stern, or some controversial political pundit or something like that, it seems like it's hard to make way. But again, the internet is the wild frontier. Podcasting, video podcasting, YouTube, going out there. people who didn't people who didn't have a voice or don't think they have a voice are closer than ever, and it's easier than ever and cheaper than ever to be able to pursue their dreams using different avenues.
And the thing about doing internet podcasts is that you don't have to worry about the FCC always being on you, right?
Yes.
Oh my God, I love that. So I was always a big Howard Stern fan, and when he went to satellite, that made me a satellite subscriber, because then this was the mid 2000s, like this is unheard of, and he helped boost satellite radio, and it's still a thing. People that want to hear those certain shows. But yeah, I mean, if we want to hear every F-bomb and the most explicit, disgusting thing ever, just everyone has the ability to do that. There's no censorship, and that's fantastic.
Right. Man, like I know from doing this podcast with Jake how many F-bombs we went through within the last 8 months.
Goodness, if you had to play a drinking game for like every time we said like the F-bomb, good luck. Good luck is all I have to say. And better luck if you're listening to the After Hours show.
Yes.
Now go back to the 80s or early 90s. The early 90s, when 93 is when I graduated college. And then the only way to get on the radio is you had to get an FCC license, which, didn't cost anything. You didn't have to take a test. I don't know if that's the case nowadays. But obviously you're under the rules of the broadcast thing. It's like if you wanted to do a talk show about geek stuff back then, you'd probably have to petition your local public radio, and they'd probably stick you on Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. It's like you're never going to get your listenership up. On demand is something that I never thought would become a thing, but it's so important now. People that want to listen to shows and watch TV and movies when they want and not on the network schedule.
Man, that's amazing, man. So
and it's also more accurate too. If you think about it, radio and TV ratings, they're based on diaries in X number of hundreds of houses that are deciding in this weird, discombobulated way. Oh, how many did your website get? How many unique users? How many come back? How many this, that, and the other? And you get the breakdown, the stats from Google or wherever showing, hey, we got people in the Ukraine listening to this. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
Because I know, like,
Man.
we get like, yeah, because like I know, like, we get listeners from like Ireland and the UK, and it's honestly crazy to even think that's even possible. Like, you wouldn't think that would ever happen, but with internet and everything, anything's possible.
Right.
Everything, yeah. Google, everything's a Google search away. So once you're out there, you're searchable, whether you want to be or not. And people will stumble across you, and they'll find you by accident. And sometimes it's a really happy accident.
What have been some of your favorite characters you voiced over the years as a voice actor?
Well, I wouldn't go saying that. I got to give props to Dragon Ball Z. That was my first big role. I was a huge fan of it to begin with. For about 5 years before I got to be on there. I used to go around the house imitating the narrator. Who knew I'd become one day? I'm not the only one, but certainly for a good run of DBZ in the United States, and now that you get collected on Blu-ray and the season sets, that's usually the one you hear is me, because we went back and did all 291 for a consistent cast. I went back and did all the Ox King and stuff. So Gohan, absolutely pivotal. DBZ led to other things. Another one that made a huge impact was Gurren Lagann, Kamina. So many people have been touched in a positive way from that show. They're dealing with depression, or maybe they're just in a dark place, and that character and that show helps pull them out of it. And it's meant the world when people share the stories like that, to say that they were this close to pulling the trigger or down in a bottle of pills. They're just on the verge of suicide, and that characters across the globe saying, "Man, I'm scared to death. I'm here in the desert, and tomorrow may be my last day, but playing games with your voice in it or watching shows really helps me get through the night." Terminal patients, terminal kids, even. Talking to terminal kids, terminal patients, dealing with really dark things, cancer, and all that awful stuff. And if you can brighten their day just for a moment, help them escape reality, that means the world. And it's this unforeseen sort of benefit that I've gotten to do. I do this job because I love it, not because I seek fame or fortune, but because this is something I want to do. And how fantastic is it that in the entertainment industry, it can be therapy for so many people to escape. Maybe they're mad at their boss, or they're mad at their significant other, or they're dealing with things like illness and all these awful things, like, oh, how am I going to pay the rent? I want to play a game or watch a show or something and just escape for a little bit. That makes all the difference in the world. And then my chance to be on a Disney movie with Wreck-It Ralph, like I was saying, Ryu, because I was cast as Ryu in Street Fighter when Disney came a calling for that. And it's like, wow, I got to be a part of a Disney movie again. I'm not, not double crossing my fingers there, because I think other characters deserve cameos like Mario and things like that. But, we'll see.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised, Mario, because like you had Sonic in the first film, but you never had Mario. But I also keep hearing rumors that if they make a second one, that Mario's going to be included. But I do got to say, man, to hear what you said about like you guys getting to talk to like kids with illnesses and such, I lost a sister to cancer, and that is honestly a great thing to hear. And because I know like there's a lot of people who just fall in like especially like you said, whenever like kids, like they absolutely fall in love with these characters so much that it just basically really affects them. And those kids nowadays, I know that are like that are still into like anime and such, they might even want to be into voice acting. And so my next question for you is, are there any tips or advice you would give to anyone about voice acting, and to just basically like what you need to do, like to prepare, like what helps, that sort of stuff?
Video game stuff. The big hub for that, the big world of opportunity, has definitely moved to the West Coast. Los Angeles is definitely, hundreds and hundreds of companies and studios, opportunities, tons and tons and tons of agents and casting people, and all that. So the opportunity is there. Even though I don't work all the time, I have audition opportunities that I wouldn't have if I were anywhere else. So that's why I decided to move from Texas, where I was born and raised and lived my whole life. And Funimation's still there, and I go there from time to time to record. But basically, my existence is uprooted and living on the West Coast. If you want to just do like commercials or be on the radio, any major market has opportunities for that, for radio, TV commercials, and People are in their cars more often, stuck in traffic. So, between that and podcasting, anyone could be anywhere to do podcasting, and anyone could be anywhere to record auditions. But you really need to get a good grip on the fact that voice acting isn't just doing wacky, zany voices. It's really about the acting. It's about becoming and immersing a character. So that I don't feel like a hypocrite saying, even though I didn't personally grow up in that world of studying drama and all that stuff, I've since then taken lots of classes that have helped me. Improv, an absolute important, essential skill that every actor needs, whether they're behind the mic or on stage or on camera. Improv is huge. Building characters, getting that acting experience, whether it's at school or somewhere that is teaching acting, it's all going to help you out. I say something that's for free that you can do anywhere, even if you're stuck in your mom's basement in the middle of nowhere. Read aloud 10 minutes a day. Get used to your voice. Don't work on impressions so much as, bringing something original to the table. That's what casting people want to hear is why should we hire you? We're not going to hire someone that sits there and does a great Bart Simpson. We've got Bart Simpson. We're not going to hire anyone else to be Bart Simpson. So, your party trick's nice, but you gotta bring an original set of skills to it, and there's tons of super talented people out there to coach you. Another reality check to keep in mind: people aren't necessarily going to become actors just because they want to be. You may find that it's just not your forte. You may find an animator, and then I try it and say, man, I suck. I can only draw stick figures. Well, at least I tried. And, trying and having it not work out is so much better than wondering what if, saying, man, I wish I could do this. Now, people say, well, Kyle, to do all that, to take your classes, to move, obviously that takes lots of money. Yeah, it does. So you do baby steps. You have your crappy day job, and you put away a little with each paycheck, maybe $5 here, $10 there. Before you know it, you've got enough money to take a small class. Or invest in something like a portable mic, or maybe some soundproofing for your bedroom so you can have a nice recording environment. You don't have to blow thousands of dollars on a home studio setup. It's nice if you have it, but you don't need to. Work with a dialect coach or maybe a speech therapist. If you've got a speech impediment or all that, you're not going to get hired. A lot. I mean, that's just the way it is out there. You got to make sure that you're competitive with everybody. It is kind of a cutthroat thing, not as much as the on-camera world, but in fact, the allure of voice acting is that it doesn't matter what you look like. What are your acting skills? You could be 500 pounds, but you voice all these different characters that look nothing like you, and it doesn't matter because you're a good actor. That's fantastic. Being in the right place, the right time. You can be the most talented person, take all the classes in the world, and never get hired. Can you be told no thousands of times in your life and have it not affect you one bit? Have it not get rid of your self-resolve and take a big blow to your self-esteem and have you not question yourself and say, what, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And if you do, at least you learn something. You will learn something regardless of the experience, good or bad. Whatever mistakes you make, whatever you throw at the wall and sticks, you're going to be able to take good, positive, life-learning, life-altering experiences. You may try out for an acting class and realize you'd rather direct. You may take a directing class and realize you'd rather write. You may take a writing class and learn you'd rather draw. Who knows? So open your mind. Have a really open mind to the opportunities around you. Don't just say, I only want to voice act for cartoons. It's like, well, that's great. If you want to pick up and save $10,000 and be able to float for a few months, move out here with some roommates and see if it can happen. I'm the new kid in town, even with the resume that I have, because there's a long way to go. I've come a long way, but you can never become complacent. You got to say, I'm kind of like a heroin addict here. It's like I'm addicted to getting in the booth and getting to bring characters to life. And then, the high goes away because once you're done recording, they don't need you anymore until the next time when they call you. And hopefully you audition, you try out, and you say, all right, lather, rinse, repeat. chances are they're not going to hire me, but I'm going to do this audition and treat it as the job. Treat it like this is what I'd sound like if I were doing the job. Yeah, auditions don't pay, but you know what? I'm going to take the classes in between all those times I'm not getting hired, and I'm going to make sure that I bring my A game, and I'm going to be worth hiring. And you're going to listen to my stuff, and you're going to be like, okay, maybe Kyle's not. Even if they never hire you, at least you're being heard. So hopefully with that 80,000 minute, hour long instruction, there were some good tips in there.
And I know, like, there's like a big difference, say, like between voice acting and drama, to where, like, drama stuff, you might have like maybe like a couple months or so to get ready, but to whereas in voice acting, you don't have near as much time. You might only have like that day, right?
Yeah, cold reading, the ability to absorb material quick and then regurgitate it and perform it as if it's coming from your soul, absolute essential skill. Yeah, you don't have to memorize dialogue, which is nice, but again, you got to be ready to commit to a performance, be able to be flexible to change to whatever the director is asking or the client, and then work with them together to give them what they want efficiently. And you know, every time you show off in an audition, you're basically showcasing, this is the reason why you should hire me. I give good direction. I take direction. I take the notes that you give me, and I'm able to adapt and change my performance on a dime. And those skills you absolutely need. So yeah, it's different. Also, you bring up drama. The physicality of being on stage is very different. You not only depending on your acting skills, but your looks, your eyes, hitting your marks and projecting to the audience. With voice acting, there's so much more intimacy involved, coming in just a little bit closer to the mic and maybe even whispering, but having it carry as much intensity as if you were screaming from the top of your lungs. Any actor who's been on camera or on stage will tell you that it's a very different animal doing voice work. You're channeling all that physicality into just your voice. And it can be quite the challenge for someone who's taken a bunch of Shakespeare classes and I learned stuff, taking all these acting classes through fancy universities and travel the world, and then they come in and they try to dub anime and they're like, oh my God, I can't do it. Doesn't mean they're bad actors. It's just a completely different skill set. With anime dubbing, it's very technical. You have to be able to act. You have to be able to match the mouth flaps, the lip sync involved, and do the timing and think on the fly. If the line is too short or too long, you got to adapt it to something that sounds similar so it's still faithful to the original translation. And yeah, the director will usually whip that out for you, but it's really good when you take it on your own initiative to also help there and contribute to the production, because that goes a long way. The directors remember that, and chances are they'll bring you in at least for more opportunities to audition.
And outside of voice acting for just a minute, I got to ask you, what's some of your favorite, what's sort of your favorite music to listen to?
I'm mostly a metalhead. I love all variations of rock. I love everything from Lamb of God to Jack White. I'm literally all over the spectrum. I love a lot of diverse stuff. I love the Beatles. I love cheesy 80s synth scores like Stranger Things. I'm in love with that series. And
oh, my goodness.
I just downloaded that score on my Apple Music today because part 2 came out, and I'm a vinyl nut. I love collecting vinyl, movie scores, heavy metal. I like stream of tons of different things. I love electronica. I love Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails. I love this Canadian artist, Devin Townsend, who used to be a metal act, strapping young lad. Now it's Devin Townsend Project. Love all that stuff. And again, Jack White, even though I'm not really into blues, I love Jack White. I love that kind of punk rock feel. I love the White Stripes. Man, I guess if you threw out some names, I'd be like, yeah, I like them too. Yeah, all over the place.
Heck yeah. I grew up with rock, so I've listened to pretty much everything metal from Metallica. I grew up from Metallica, then ended up listening to, Eddie Van Halen and all those guys growing up. So, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, the classic rock still resonates with me. I grew up, I'm a big Rush nerd. I've seen them like 7 or 8 times in concert. Love Rush. Man, I don't think I've ever seen. Yeah, I saw Van Halen in 1984. the very end of the initial David Lee Roth era. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I was big into Kiss back then. I love
Yes.
Marilyn Manson. I love Slipknot. I'm all over. Yeah, a little of everything. I love the classic stuff. I love the new stuff.
I'm the same way. I like to have like, because it's like, you have like a lot of people who are into like just like a single sort of genre. I'm one of those that likes to listen to just like a different variety, kind of just have like a little bit of a different mixture of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm not really normally into hip hop or rap, and I don't like country per se, but there's some stuff. There's some Johnny Cash stuff. I love Johnny Cash's cover of "Hurt" by Nine Inch Nails. I think that's like, it just gives me chills every time. But then I'll follow it up and listen to like Typo Negative, because I just love that gothic Black Sabbath sort of
Yes.
riff. And no one had a voice like Peter Steele. I mean, man, rest in peace.
No one did.
Yeah, it's just killer. I love Ghost. I love gimmick bands. I love Slipknot with the mask, and Marilyn Manson with the shock rock, and I love Ghost with their, they're all wearing masks and they're all anonymous, and I love that sound, that Blue Oyster Cult classic rock sound. Fantastic.
So, outside of Gohan, what characters in Dragon Ball Z would you like the voice as? Outside of Gohan.
Well, I've always loved Piccolo. He's the one that the very first character I saw when I had taped on VHS on cable at like 4 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Of course, I didn't learn how to program a VCR until that. That had actually motivated. Before that, my VCR flashed 12 for years. And I was like, I should learn how to do this because I want to record something that I'm not going to be up to see. And I remember Piccolo was the very first character I saw, and then his arm gets blown off, and I was like, this is so cool. And Chris Abbott told me when I was hired as Gohan, and he heard me do PyCon, because he cast me as that. He says, man, that kind of sounds like you could have been Piccolo had you come along earlier. It's like, don't tell me that. Now I'm depressed. But that's just basic. PyCon is my voice of Piccolo, had I been Piccolo. And it's kind of a Scott McNeil type tribute, because the Canadian dub is what I first saw, what people saw from 95 to 2000 before it went to the Texas cast.
And now I know we've talked a lot about anime this evening, and we've been talking a little bit about radio. So going back to radio for your radio career, what made you want to go into radio?
Radio, again, was kind of the theater of the mind thing where I knew people weren't going to look at me, but I'd still make them laugh or get them on some sort of gut emotional level. And it was a great way to sit there, again, on my own in my room with my cassette recorder and just let my imagination run wild. I heard things at an early age, like War of the Worlds with Orson Welles, the classic radio broadcast in 1938, that then, some people thought there was a real Martian invasion going down, and there was, panic in the streets, even though there was a disclaimer at the beginning saying that this is just a dramatization of H.G. Wells' story. And I love the power of that. It's like that could affect people. Like The Shadow, the old radio plays. It's like, oh, this sounds so cool. It's like whatever you think in your mind is going to be so much more vivid than how it played out. Even though I'm a big movie guy, I'm a visual person. I love the power of what audio. It creates different things in different people's minds.
And on the topic of radio, tell us about what you've been going on like now in radio, Kyle.
I haven't really listened to terrestrial radio in a lot of years, but I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to Kevin Smith, and man, I mean, if my cell phone didn't connect to the Bluetooth in my stereo, I'd probably listen to just classic rock stations. And I love listening to stand-up comedy. Again, the internet, having the internet at your fingertips, you can find every kind of music, every kind of talk show you'd ever want. So, when you're streaming across the dial and you hear nothing but ads, you're like, oh man, I don't want to listen to this. But also, as a content generator, you need those ads. If perfect world, you'd have McDonald's and Subway and Tesla all advertising on your podcast, giving you, thousands of dollars for 30 seconds of your time, and you guys be banking. Your show would be huge, and it's like, it's fun to dream and all that. But yeah, I mean, I grew up with stars in my eyes when I thought about the idea of being in this place that no one could see, with a big antenna tower broadcasting music that people wanted to hear, and I'd sit there and give anecdotes about the musicians and the albums and little trivia bits in between all that. So yeah, I mean, it's where it started for me. First it was a love of radio, and then that kind of segued into the world of VO.
Yeah, it's honestly crazy how like one thing can sort of like open up a door for another thing. And I'm taking a step back here for a second, because when you mention theater of the mind, it's so crazy to think how, say, like if you're listening, like you said, like if you're listening to a skit on the radio, you might have one image in your head that someone else might not. But for my last question that I do want to ask you is, what are 3 of your favorite Dragon Ball Z moments?
Ooh, well, I know a definite moment is the Otherworld tournament, where my version of Gohan turned Super Saiyan 2. I love that. It's the first time I had to really, really scream. His eyes go in the back of his head. He looks totally satanic and like monstrous. And the tiles of the tournament floor are levitating, and everyone's like having their oh shit moment. It's like, oh my God, that was so much fun. It's like, I get to voice that? Awesome. Other pivotal moments. Oh man. Another moment that I just had so much fun doing was I was an ice cream parlor guy in the Majin Buu saga, when Fat Buu goes in his ice cream shop, and I was cast as the guy who's sitting there behind the counter selling ice cream, and I got the freedom to do what I wanted with it, so I chose to give him Forrest Gump's voice. You gotta pay for that.
Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan, ice cream.
That's right, we got ice cream. Hey. I love getting to do that. Captain Chicken's another one I voiced. He's on the very last episode of DBZ. So I get to do a little Foghorn Leghorn, Captain Chicken away! Oh boy, it's a little Johnny Bravo thrown in there with Foghorn Leghorn. It's like if they had a baby.
I'm imagining there's probably a fan fiction about that out there somewhere.
Yeah, there might be. And I certainly love, even though other people kind of think he's the Jar Jar Binks of Dragon Ball, but to me, I had so much fun being Saiyaman, doing the Saiyaman rap, doing the poses. It's just, man. It was all about Gohan being a dork. It's like, man, that's me.
Now, do you actually do the poses like at anime conventions?
No, because I honestly don't remember them. But I tell you, I have the people that dress up as Saiyaman. I have them do it. And I can't remember. I mean, I know that people have uploaded the video clips, so I know the Saiyan rap is up there. And if I bothered to memorize it, I would be able to do that on demand, but I haven't been able to. So if people want a certain voice and they want to hear it, if they have it written down, even on their phone, and they hand it to me, I'll be happy to do the voice. We don't get to keep the scripts. And, after, 15, 16 years of doing this, I've done a lot. I'm very fortunate. That's a first world problem, isn't it? I've done so many things that I can't possibly remember. Oh, God. So, yeah.
That reminds me, one of my favorite things at AFW whenever we was at your panel, actually 2 of them, one where the people actually got to get involved also, but 2 where everyone got to do like their own Super Saiyan yell towards the very end.
Yeah, I like doing these workshops at cons where they learn about the process of doing video game recording, how it's different from anime dubs where you're just in the booth by yourself and it's just you and a script. Usually, if it's a Japanese game, you're matching the timing of the Japanese audio. Whereas anime, you've got the finished thing on screen. You're matching lip sync. It's a different dynamic. It's easier technically to voice video games, but it also pays more, which is weird. Anime dubs are the hardest kind of voice work to do, but yet they're the red-haired stepchild of the voice acting world because it pays so little. And it's given very little respect, but it's hugely popular. the actors are getting their day in the sun because of it, and everyone's out there because of social media, and it's great.
Yeah, because I remember back at AFW, you were telling us basically how video games do pay more and how it is a little bit easier to do. But Kyle, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your evening to hop on and let us do this awesome interview with you. Again, this meant a lot to us, especially because, you know, you're someone who's done like a lot of radio stuff, and I'm one who's trying to go into the whole field of radio and everything. And so just hearing like all this information that you were able to give out tonight was honestly just a lot of great stuff to hear, and I cannot thank you enough for that, man.
Sure, thank you. And I encourage anyone out there that are interested in doing voice acting to take an acting class. And if you've been doing radio and you get into radio, you'll notice right away, even though they're both similar in that you're in a booth with headphones and a microphone, the way that you approach the mic is very different. You know, being an announcer on the radio is different than inhabiting the skin of a character. So I learned that, you know, being a DJ and transitioning into doing commercial voiceover and auditioning for that stuff, very different to try and sound natural, like you're not announcing something. You're not talking to people or at them. You're talking with them. You're being the voice of someone's friend and all that. So that's just a little nugget there to keep in mind for all the people that are in radio that want to transition into acting. Definitely emphasize, underline, do everything, highlight the word acting when you say the word voice acting. It's all about what you can bring to that character, not having that golden announcer voice. You don't have to have the golden announcer voice anymore.
And Kyle, where can people check you out on social media or just basically like anywhere on the internet?
Pretty easy to find on Twitter and Instagram, at Kyle Hebert. See, my last name looks like Hebert, but it's actually a Louisiana French thing, Hebert. Hebert. So spell it like Kyle Hebert. That's how it looks, but it's pronounced Hebert. You can find me on Facebook.com/Kyle HebertVO. But I mean, you type me in, you're going to find me. KyleHebert.com. I try to keep that updated with the latest convention appearances, links to those websites. You can get all the info to see if I'm coming to your town. And if you want me to come to a convention, email whoever is your local convention and let them know. Go on their social media and let them know, hey, we want Kyle Hebert. And pretty easy to find. They can drop me a line, and hopefully I can see you guys out there on the convention scene.
And you guys, and you guys can go check Kyle out right there where he mentioned it. Kyle, again, thank you for hopping on this evening to doing the interview, guys. And what we're going to do now, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more on Real Talk Radio. Stay tuned.